Hello, hello! Welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV. Here we are back in Inokoro to continue Heaven on High. Now that we're done with those Eureka shenanigans, I can get back to dying in this tower before I reach the top. While you run out of patience for me to show you things. Also, I think either either the TMI video or just the fact that I'm doing all the side can cost me a subscriber. But, oh well. I mainly just record for fun anyway, so it's kind of... I mean, I wouldn't mind getting big, but the amount of effort I put in, I'm not going to get big. It's just... There's so many people who put way more effort in their stuff than I do, and... Oh, I guess I could have skipped this floor set, honestly. So if if Heaven on High is not your thing, like if you're just in this Let's Play for the story, which should be the main focus of it, honestly, feel free to skip the next, like, well, it depends on how far I can actually get without dying before I lose my patience. But you could feel free to skip this video and like the next, I don't know, 5 or 6. Oh, right. I am glad to be done with Eureka, though. And after I'm done showing you Heaven on High, I'll show you the Relic Katana that I finished in Eureka. Because not only did I finish it, I went back and I went ahead and got some of the, rearranged some of the substats so that it actually has a good substat allocation. And by good, I mean more substats than a typical I-400 or I-405 weapon. Actually, it wound up with a total of 775 substats. No, maybe it was 785. Pretty sure it was 775, but I haven't looked at it in a minute. All it cost me was one more lockout of Pyros. That wasn't too bad. I'll probably be dipping back into Pyros with leftover time on recordings for Heaven on High. Not to do anything but buy the elemental armor for glamours, because some of them are some really cool glamours. Mainly the tank set, as far as what Clyde can wear. And I'll probably get the healer body as well. Although, the healer body is a little bit ostentatious. I probably could have showed them to you in the try-on window, but it was not a matter of importance. Of course, then again, I mean, this entire Let's Play is a matter of non-importance. So, you know. Not to sound defeatist or anything, I'm just saying. Oh, right. I've been in here so long that I forgot to do things. I really like doing Heaven on High with my friends, and Palace of the Dead with my friends as well. It really is better as a group experience. You just don't get as many achievements when you do it in a group. Although Heaven on High has more group-based achievements, or it would be better to get them in groups anyway, than Palace of the Dead. If you finish Heaven on High 4 times, you get, like, all the way to floor 100, you get a mount. It's a unique horse, and you get title, which is True Hero. And reaching floor 100 one time will get you the title Heavenly Gate Crasher. And if you can complete it by yourself, you get the title Lone Hero, which is kind of cool, I guess. Honestly, I think True Hero is a better title, but Lone Hero, you know, it's a mark of, you know what you're doing, and you're also lucky. It's kind of funny. The more I try this out, like soloing this recently, like I went to the official forums and I was stupid enough to make a topic that was like, you know, a question about like whether or not, you know, like back when I was doing Palace of the Dead videos, whether or not Dark Knight would be able to solo the 180 boss now. And the truth is that it can. I just failed. And I think I mentioned that back then, but the topic itself got out of hand. People were arguing about like the spin strat. There's like a thing you can do to any monster in this game where if you stand at an exact distance from their center, like their very center, the center of their model, or the center of their hit circle, and then you walk around them while locked on so that you move in a perfect circle, they will spin. And this will cause them to be unable to do anything, even auto attack. So it's one of the ways that the people who have basically made deep dungeons their whole life consistently get to floor 200 solo and floor 100 solo. Once they run out of commanders, basically they just start spinning every monster that is too difficult to beat without commanders for whatever job they're on. And it's an exploit, but I'm not really here to condemn it, because if I learned how to do it, I'm sure I would take advantage of it. Because it's not cheating per se, right? Like it's, I'm sure if you're familiar with speedruns and whatnot, you know, they have like allowable exploits and that they don't consider cheats within a 100% glitchless run. Like the speedrun for Sekiro, they always like, they get one of the harder bosses in the game to like get pinned between a statue and the wall, and then they can ignore his entire like attack pattern and just mercilessly beat him. And it's an exploit, right? Like you're not supposed to be able to do that, but you can because they didn't playtest the boss, you know, by playing in a, you know, incredibly unintended manner, right? And that has more to do with From Software, you know, wanting people to be able to beat their bosses, right? If they're afraid that maybe a boss might be too hard, they always leave an out, right? But what's funny is it's done in the speedrun not because it's really difficult, like the hardest boss in the game or anything. It's just done to save time, which, you know, is kind of sad in one way, but, you know, makes complete sense when you're trying to go fast and get a world record, right? It's this whole, you know, competitive aspect. But the exploit for spinning monsters is sort of like that. Of course, you know, it's also theoretically not possible on every job because of reasons, but I feel like the people who say that are wrong, because like, I think some people said it was not possible on like Red Mage or something like that, and that just ignores the fact, because they're a caster or whatever, and it's like, that ignores the fact that Red Mage has a melee combo that can be executed whether they have mana or not, which is instant. which is the same as a melee class. And any of the melee classes can actually spin. So it's like, why wouldn't red mage be able to spin? You know, it would just, it wouldn't save them any time, but, you know, they would be able to kill something that they, you know, normally otherwise wouldn't be able to. Of course, the thing about spinning also is that since it's hard to pull off, you need a lot of space for it, or a decent amount of space. So you can't actually even do it in every single, like, instance of a room you get. Like, you still have to know what you're doing. You have to, like, pick monsters off. Basically, it's just like another aid. Like, if you know how to do it, you're more likely to succeed, sort of thing. But, let's see, petrification, Commander. Yeah, we got 30 seconds. We can just one-shot stuff. Super potions, high quality. Those can restore up to 6,000 HP. Pretty nice. Although at this point, they would only restore about, I think, about 4,400. But they're still more healed, time efficient than like a max potion, high quality. So this is the point where you need that sort of thing. Don't care about any of the intuition drops until the floor 70, 71 and above. There are 2 unique mounts related to Heaven on High. One you can get from the sacks, the accursed horde or whatever. You can get it from the sacks from 71 to 99, and it's a little dodo bird, and it's really silly. And you can sell that one on the market board. You can also buy it off the market board. But the horse mount is one that you get from actually doing this over and over again. I thought about trying to get my friends to come play with my Let's Play all, but I don't even know what their schedules are like anymore because so many of them aren't logging in. And like today, I actually thought about, you know, trying to ask my friends to do the ending Savage fights for Clyde for the Stormblood Omega raids, just so I could show off the Final Fantasy XIV versions of Neo X-Death, God Kefka, and Final Omega. But literally when I logged in today, there were only 2 of my friends online. And then a couple of my free company members logged in. Talked to me for a little bit, but they weren't interested. And even if they had been interested, you know, they never did the fights when they were current, so they don't know how to do them anyway. Heck, I barely remember them. I think the one I remember the most is actually God Kefka, because he had a very specific rotation, and he also sort of repeated himself like 3 times with, you know, like layered up mechanics. His biggest thing was this huge mechanics rotation called Forsaken, where he sets everyone's HP to 1, and then just like the spell Goner in actual Final Fantasy VI, and then he 3 meteor circles appear that need 2 people in each one of them. But then each DPS gets a laughing God Kefka head that spawns and tethers to them and moves towards them. And so basically what has to happen is the second your HP is set down to 1 and you get a temporary can't be healed debuff or whatever. At least the DPS do. So second that comes off, they gotta be healed up. And the tanks take like the center circle, and each DPS, they like cross their heads so that they don't collide with anyone else. And they take the sides, depending on where their heads spawn at. And And basically, you want like the tethers to look like a really squished X. And it's kind of a precursor to the light rampant thing. It's like light rampant -1, basically. Although I've never actually done light rampant in the current Savage because I went on hiatus to basically to appease my girlfriend, but also to take a break from Savage raiding. I had been raiding Savage really rigorously over the years. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. But I was raiding about 4 to 5 days a week, depending on what my groups wanted. And there were a few times where I raided every day in a week because I would pick up group raiding on my third alt on another data center, on the Aether data center on my Sargatanas character, where I would either help my Sargatanas Free Company with their raid, or I would just jump into a pickup group and do the raids that way. And I actually did that, continued doing that while I was first dating my girlfriend. And obviously I could just drop the pickup group rating, but I still had 2 actual statics that I had, you know, like a 4-day minimum of 4-day commitment to. And so, like, you know, even though it's only a few hours a day, it was sort of like a it's like, together with my work schedule being nights and her being in college and whatnot, like, she really started to feel the pressure, like that she wasn't getting to see me enough, even though I was spending literally every other free minute with her that I possibly could. It was like my life was basically raid, work, girlfriend, raid, work, girlfriend, you know, and I'd much rather keep dating my girlfriend than keep raiding. Although, honestly, I didn't have to drop both groups, but I felt like it was time to take a break because it was getting to be too much. I wanted to experience freedom. And honestly, sometimes when I think about it, like, there's this thing that people abbreviate to FOMO, like the fear of missing out or whatever. I guess I get that a little bit in regards to, like, raiding. But it doesn't affect me as much as I thought it would. Mainly because it doesn't look like they came up with anything within the context of the new Eden raids that I hadn't seen in some form before. Although honestly, when I decided to watch videos for Ramu and Shiva, and I also watched one video for the third fight in the tier, and Ramu actually looked pretty interesting and fun, but and so did the third fight in the tier. I for some reason I didn't feel like watching the second fight in the tier at all, which we'll get there when we get there, but to the normal mode versions of those at the end of Shadowbringers, but it's a ways off yet. Yeah, like the Ramu Savage version or whatever, like Ramu's like a centaur and like he's got red wings and like looks very buff and his beard's a lot shorter. And like he's got like the most interesting thing about the fight is the off tank has to deal with this like weird ad that like tethers to them, and if it reaches them it starts dealing like a ridiculous amount of damage or like instantly kills them or something. Which that's like not the first time an ad like that has been implemented. In the Savage mode version of the Shard Arnuk, there was an ad sort of like that was attached itself to a healer, I think. It's been so long since I did that fight that I don't really remember. Also, we're not going to be able to deal with that, so we're going to have to use a... We don't have the Aether Pool strength yet. This is actually a really easy floor set, but our Aether Pool strength is just abysmally low. So like, we can't really deal with more than like 3 enemies at once. And probably only barely. Yeah. One thing though that does seem sort of interesting to me is that they're making the Savage fights a lot longer, it seems like. The last tier I did, the final fight was like 13 minutes and 45 seconds or something like that before the Enrage cast happens. By the time the Enrage cast ends, I think you actually have a full time limit of like 13 minutes and 53 seconds or something like that. And it was a Titan Savage, which is a very cool fight, which is a very, very cool Titan redesign. And I guess this is like minor spoilers since I'm telling you what these fights are, and that we have to look forward to like a revamp of the same primals we've fought in the past. But yeah, I don't think it's that big of a spoiler. Basically, it was done because they were somewhat out of ideas for raid bosses. I mean, I don't think they're actually out of ideas for bosses, because I mean they're entirely new fights. But I think they said that it was like their desire to find a way to make modern versions of the 2013, 2014 fights. So it was, you know, it's whatever. But yeah, so that one was almost 14 minutes long, and that's not unheard of in the length of a Savage fight. There's no checkpoint, so like it's quite a bit longer than the checkpointed Savage fights in Stormblood, which, like, I want to show those off just to show you what the checkpoint's like. Although, whenever I do show them off, I don't know if the checkpoint will matter because I'm not gonna be doing them at current levels, or at sync level. I mean, like, if the people that fight it will be level 80, just so that as many mechanics can be circumvented as possible, because it's not hard to find people who still know what they're doing, but it's hard to get a full group of people who know exactly what the mechanics are. And like, it would essentially be relearning and redoing the fight. And there's no way I could do that on my timetable. So like, just gotta settle. But even then, they're current enough and they have dangerous enough mechanics that you wouldn't have to obey every single one, but there would be a set of mechanics you would still have to do that would be fatal to even to level 80s. We've gotten a few silvers this floor set. I wish we would get more. Really need more Aether Pool going up. Although honestly, our Aether Pool is sort of just fine. It's just not. It could be better, you know. And that's actually a false tell. It looks like a group stack marker, but all it actually designates is that that's an AOE Like, if your friends actually jump in to share it with you, the damage doesn't split because it's already so low. It's basically a false attack to try to dissuade newbies from fighting those things by themselves. Of course, the gig is up the second it hits, and it has a pathetically low amount of damage, regardless of your class and regardless of your Aether pool. But yeah, so like, if you didn't use the checkpoint, which like the only way to not use it would be to never wipe in the Stormblood Savage fights, then the total length of the fights is like it's like a 6 or 7 minute fight plus like a 11 to 12 minute fight. So they could be up to like 18 minutes or like 16 minutes or something. But the thing is that for a cooldown spread for the fight, most people would they would get the checkpoint and then they would purposely wipe so that they could have all their cooldowns. Because that's the thing, if they give us checkpoints, people will use them. And sometimes people will use them even if it's a bad idea. Like recently, back in February, they came out with Ruby Weapon Extreme for Shadowbringers. And it's like an item level 470 fight or whatever, and it's pretty easy because they gave a checkpoint. Like you have a 6 minute fight, and then there's a phase transition, and then you hit the boss, and if you wipe, there's a checkpoint. And the thing is there didn't need to be one. It's actually a really easy fight, and in both phases, and the second phase is actually easier than the first. And they're about the same length. So it's only like a 12-minute fight, if that. And, it's just like, the only reason I can think they put a checkpoint into it was to be as friendly to noobs as possible. Like, they're sort of, I won't say desperately trying, but they're putting in some effort to try to bridge the gap for casual players to learn the harder content and actually want to do it. So they're like, that's my opinion on it. They went ahead and put in some difficulty there, and but like lowered, like all in all, it would be a more challenging fight, if there were no checkpoint, because wipes are still happen pretty easily, but at the same time, like, there's no they didn't there is the checkpoint, like it's there, that Lion's AoE hurt a lot more than I thought it was going to. Stun it? Okay, good. See, these lower floors, like this floor set, I don't remember what anything does, because normally when you come through this floor set, you're already 99 of 99, like if you're like soloing normally. And as far as I remember, the way that Aether Pool gets synced down in Heaven on High is that once you're beyond floor 31, they pretty much just unsync your stuff almost completely. Like, I think from floor 31 to floor 40, you have like, you're allowed up to, I guess we could check and see if ours is synced at all. Nope, it's not synced at all. So I think you have over 60/60 if you're above that. And then like, definitely by like floor 50, you're completely uncapped. Like they don't, You know, they don't hold you back at all. Because like in Palace of the Dead, when you first get beyond floor 100, I'm fairly certain that your weapon, even if it's 99.99, I can't exactly remember, but I'm thinking that it, I could be wrong, but I think that it's, I guess I could go check my own video before I say something wrong. But I'm pretty sure that it's still synced down to like somewhere like in the 70s or 80s until you reach like 120. But don't quote me on that, because I'm probably just misremembering. Hell, I'm probably wrong about Heaven on High too. Either way, normally this, like when trying to solo this, like it's so effortless that you can just like pull every room, and the sort of care that I'm having to do with Clyde at all is sort of foreign to me, honestly. But it's probably better this way, because I can build up slowly, and I won't have to you know, readapt. One of the problems with soloing this when you get to 99.99 is obviously that all the lower floors, they get so easy that like you're no longer careful until you get to a certain floor, and that sort of screws up the way you should be playing. You know, you don't take the lower floors seriously, so you're more likely to screw up later, because you sort of get an inertia for the way that you're playing. That's my opinion anyway. Magicite's always welcome. Although I would prefer upgrades. Okay, fine. Mimic's fine too. Mimic's fine too. I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate. Not when I'm on tank. Steel, don't mind if I do. Yeah, another thing they've been doing with the extreme fights, at least within Shadowbringers, is they've also been making them longer, but also making them, we got the dog buff again. I believe that's the attack up for 5 minutes. Inugami's favor. Oop, come on. Damage taken is decreased. Okay, never mind. It's another tank buff. Whatever, I'll take it. It's all good. So what we really got to do is go check for more silvers. I was also thinking, you know, I'm not going to level Gunbreaker on Clyde, but he's gonna, like, his Gunbreaker's been getting a lot of experience from me, you know, going into this, and just also, like, I don't want to take his other 4 or 5 jobs or whatever it is, Dragoon, Samurai, Red Mage, Astrologian, Dark. Okay, 5 jobs. His 5 jobs that I'm doing, I don't want him to get so far beyond the current level that, you know, like, it's, you know, like, that I could be buying market board gear and would be encouraged to buy more market board gear before I actually, you know, get to where that gear is like just a story reward or whatever. So like whenever I wanted to do a roulette for like a cash or poetics or something, I've been doing it on his Gunbreaker, and his Gunbreaker is like level 64.5 or something like that now. And I figure if it gets to level 70 by the time I'm done trying to show off Heaven on High, I'll just show you the rest of its storyline, because it'll be pertinent for stuff that's coming towards the end of the current storyline. Like the next major update, I don't think we'll get to the end of Shadowbringers or the end of what's current in the game by the next major update or minor update, whatever. Because it's coming in like mid-October, but it's releasing the Bosja front or whatever, which is going to be a big instance group content, sort of like Eureka, but not Eureka, and it's going to be against the Garlean Empire. And they probably should have honestly put that in Stormblood, but they did Eureka instead, so whatevs. This is a wind elemental or sprite or something. It's very silly looking. But you could fight them in the peaks, which is strange, but that's where you can fight them, so. This is basically a total rotation. It summons wind orbs on the outer edge, and then leaves 2 big gaps, and then it casts the knockback. And it'll probably take me like 4 or 5 minutes to kill. And we should be able to cancel this knockback like that. That's how Dark Knight used to have to deal with knockbacks. They had to use their gap closing plunge. And just never always perfect the timing. And if they couldn't, like if you couldn't trust yourself to perfect that timing, then you basically had to actually do the knockback mechanics. And that was a huge issue for Dark Knight in Stormblood raiding, because they kept adding all these fights where it was like exceptionally optional to just ignore knockbacks. Like the Phantom Train Savage has one where it will knock the entire party off the train, and you basically, you have to either get on the proper side of a ghost and, you know, let the ghost's like dimensional box catch you, or you have to cancel the knockback with either a perfect gap closer timing or a perfect usage of an anti-knockback skill like Arm's Length, which all melee had Arm's Length in Stormblood, except for tanks. Paladin had a skill that they'd had forever called Tempered Will, which made them immune to knockbacks and draw-ins for 10 seconds, and then every 3 minutes. And then Warrior had Holmgang, which originally bound the Warrior in place, and attempted to bind the target in place as well. And so both tanks and all melees had anti-knockbacks. All casters also had anti-knockbacks in the form of Sure Cast. So like, Dark Knight was just up shit creek without paddle. See how easy it is for me to mistime it though? I actually started, when I was raiding in Stormblood, I started on Dark Knight because they nerfed Warrior at the start. And supposedly the nerf was unintentional, and so many people complained that they reneged on it. Which is a good thing that they did, because it severely crippled Warrior. But before that, it was more advantageous to play Dark Knight. But also in the first raid series, which was Deltascape, even in the Savage Mode fights, there were almost no knockbacks. At least no knockbacks that actually mattered. So You know, it's kind of like a perfect time to be a Dark Knight right at the start there. But by 4.1, they unnerfed Warrior. The Deltascape Savage remained the Savage raid until like 4.2. So, like, there was a whole, like, I got to do that whole phase. I got to do all the Deltascape as a Dark Knight, feel like really skillful, and then once we had everything on farm, I came back on Warrior and basically got to, like, on re-strengthened Warrior, and I got to just completely obliterated. It was just disgusting how powerful Warrior was. Of course, Warrior had been in a really good spot for eons. Warrior basically got to be the best tank in the game for like all of Heavensward. And for a large portion of A Realm Reborn, it was debatable, because once they buffed it to actually have percentage mitigation, that took away Paladin's biggest advantage over it. And it brought all this other stuff to the table too, like group mitigation with the Storm's Path originally, and you know, just like mitigation on demand with Inner Beast, as well as self-healing. And so, like, it went from being a shit tank in 2.0 to being a really good tank in 2.1 for the rest of A Realm Reborn. But the player base didn't get over its Warrior stigma until basically until Heavensward. And we'll jump into the next one soon enough. For now, we're gonna switch to Dark Knight, and we're gonna go grab the elemental armor out of Eureka Pyros, just because I can, and just because, you know, like, I don't have enough time to do another floor set. But also check this out. You know, the Tyrannosaur that you've been seeing me walk around on in Eureka, woo, it can fly, because God forbid we have any land-bound mounts anymore. That's one thing that's mildly concerning to me, is the player base wants flying everywhere. And I was actually perfectly fine with the Realm Reborn areas not having flying at all. And I'm actually hoping that we get some zones in the future, which I don't think we will, because Square is proving time and time again, you know, that 14 is basically for money. Like, it's not for, it's less about the people playing it now, and it's more about the money. Because it's so successful at this point, they're basically wrenching every drop of money out of it that they can get. And while that's sad, and the quality of the game's story hasn't diminished at all, mind you, though. Still a great, fantastic game. But, you know, you can just feel it. Like, if you've been playing it for years, you can feel it. And people certainly felt it in Stormblood. They thought the game was headed into the dumpster after Stormblood. People were excited for the new expansion for Shadowbringers, but before they actually got to Shadowbringers and saw what it was and saw the story and whatnot, people were just sort of like put off. They were like, meh, it's just going to be another Stormblood or whatever. And in a lot of ways it actually is, because we're getting less and less content, even though the major updates are all still the same, right? Like, we still get a new Savage tier every even patch. We still get a new 24-man every odd number patch. Like, we still get, you know, plenty of crafting and housing and you know, casual content upgrades. But we don't get you know, we're not getting dungeons anymore very much. Like we get like we're getting 5 extra dungeons per expansion now or some shit. Like it's ridiculous. Like they give us 3 in-game dungeons at launch, so that's 3. But then they only add 1. They're only adding 1 every other patch now. So like it's getting we want to go to Pier 1? Can't remember. It's getting upsetting. And a lot of people are actually fine with it because apparently the majority of the player base hates dungeons and hates running dungeons and like thinks dungeons are bad and dungeons are stupid. Which I honestly can't relate to because I love dungeons and I wish they would make more of them and that they would make them more complex. And I also wish that they would come up with new dungeons that are longer and more involved for 4 people. Rather than like just 24-man raids, you know, and just like, because like the way that the content is it's very segmented. If you hadn't noticed, like it's all very chopped up. Like 4-man dungeons are 4-man dungeons, and there's basically no other 4-man content. And then 8-man raid is 8-man raid, and like trials are basically just 8-man raid, or 8-man raid is basically just trials. And then, but like, trials are easier than raid or whatever. But yeah, so this is the elemental armor set. This is the helmet. Kind of makes you look like Golbez from Final Fantasy IV. We have enough to get every piece. So I'm gonna get every piece, although I'm not gonna glam every piece, basically. I'm gonna get every piece so that you can see the whole set as a whole. And I'm sure if you paid attention at all to the Eureka videos, which I don't blame you if you didn't. I know that my main watcher, Colby, is not too keen on any of this. But, and I can't say I blame him. I mean, I'm not even really that keen on doing it, but I just am. Look at this ostentatious healer robe. Like, isn't it just like the most ridiculously gaudy thing you've ever seen? And what's crazy about this armor is it only gets even more gaudy when you update it or upgrade it in Hydatos, which I don't plan to do at all. Even though I think I could upgrade like a piece or two to +1. I don't plan to, because it changes some of the coloration on it and makes it look horrible in my opinion. That's just my opinion though. I don't, it's not like a it's not like my opinion is just instantly right because I have it, right? So let's get these boots. I feel like these boots are pretty good with the 5 materia slots. Maybe the healing head? No. Well, what does it look like? I never really... Oh, it's like a... Okay, it's just like a circlet thing. It's kind of weird. I don't think any of that's really important, so maybe we'll grab the maiming body, see what we can do with that. Because the maiming set is basically identical to the tanking set, except for the fact that it's, for Dragoon. And I think its default color instead of black is pink, which is weird, but whatever. Yeah, so this is the tanking armor from Eureka here. And I mean, it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Like, it really, like, it... I mean, we don't have a long enough cape, honestly, but to me, it's very reminiscent of Golbez from Final Fantasy IV. That's just my take on it. That was, like, the first thing that came to my mind. But the thing is that Golbez is actually a sorcerer, so it's kind of like whatever. And I don't know if I actually ever intend to use it, but as like glams for the LP, but I might. So, it's something to obtain. Anywho, that's all for now. Next recording, will just be the floor 41 to 50 in Heaven on High. And that's actually where Heaven on High starts to get a little more interesting, at least visually. The entire layout of the floor will change. By that I mean, like, instead of being like a Far Eastern, like, you know, silk tapestries and sliding doors and whatnot, and like tatami floor mats and whatnot, it's gonna be like ancient stone with like high technology, like sort of like poking out with like holes in the wall where like you can see out into the sky, you know, and like stuff like that. It's gonna be, you know, more interesting visually. And then it won't change again until floor 81. So the next floor set is the one to really look forward to. And the bosses, though, the bosses are also going to get more interesting. So that'll be, you know, mildly, you know, cool to show off. But I got to go do the backup file floor set run, and hopefully I get a lot more silvers. But anywho, thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a nice day.